So today I want to go over a bridge, and so we're going to start laying on our backs. So for this one, I don't like to use a blanket underneath my head. If you find that you need a little bit more support, though, you're welcome to have a blanket. So I'm going to lay down on my back. So my knees are going to be hip width apart. So kind of right underneath where your sit bones are, knees pointing straight up towards the ceiling. Now, you might notice that your spine is touching, your low back is touching the mat, or you might have a little bit of the space. That's totally normal. So whatever you have to start is what I want you to try to maintain during this pose. So I do this pose in two different ways depending on if I'm going for hip mobility or spinal mobility or hip strength. So I'm going to go over a couple different options. With any of those variations, one of the most important things I want you to pay attention to is your knees. So I want your knees pointing straight up towards the ceiling. I don't want them falling out to the sides or coming in towards each other. Those are the two most common things I see. The other thing I want you to pay attention to is what's happening in your lower legs, right? So I want you to think about pressing your heels down into the floor and pulling them towards you, right? So the same muscle activation that would do that motion, but we're not actually gonna move. So I'm pressing and pulling. That's gonna activate my hamstrings. Now, I'm gonna begin to squeeze my glutes to help lift my hips up off the floor. And I'm going to continue to pull the heels towards my shoulders, right, in the direction of my shoulders. That might bring my knees over my ankles. There's a lot of posterior chain activation happening. I'm also pressing into my arms. So from here, what I notice in my body is I've gotten all the hip extension that I have available to me right now. And if I go any higher, I'm going to start to arch my back, which is okay, but for purposes of hip mobility and glute strength, you don't need to go higher than that. So I'm just going to slowly come back down. Now, if you are going for spinal mobility, then what you're going to start to do is, as you lift your hips up, right, you're going to come and find that spot, and then you're going to continue to allow your spine to roll up off the mat, right? So I'm getting a little bit more thoracic extension. I'm definitely getting lumbar extension here, but I'm not only getting lumbar extension. So my legs are working super hard here. You're gonna lift your chin slightly to allow your chest to reach up towards the sky. And then in reverse, we're gonna slowly roll down, starting from the upper back, through the low back, and the hips and the tailbone are the last thing to come down.